On the 11th of July, 1978, one of the worst disasters in Spanish history took place near the Los Alfaques campsite in Alcanar, Catalonia. A tanker truck carrying a highly flammable chemical overturned and exploded, unleashing a fireball that claimed the lives of over 200 people. What began as a bright summer day on the coast of Spain would end in devastation. Los Alfaques was a popular seaside campsite on the Mediterranean coast, attracting both Spanish and foreign holidaymakers during the summer months. At the same time, Spain's economy was heavily reliant on its growing chemical industry. Large amounts of hazardous substances were transported by road each day. On the morning of July 11th, a tanker truck owned by Cisternas Reunidas left a refinery in Tarragona. It was filled with propylene, a highly flammable liquefied gas used in plastics production. The truck was overloaded, carrying around 23 tons, well above its recommended capacity. The driver took the N230 coastal highway, which passed directly in front of the Los Alfaques campsite. At around 2:35 p.m., as the tanker drove past the crowded campground, disaster struck. The truck either swerved to avoid a car or lost stability because of its excess weight. In either case, it overturned and ruptured. Almost instantly, a massive cloud of propylene gas began escaping. Propylene is stored as a liquid under pressure, but once released into the open air, it expands rapidly into vapor. In the summer heat of coastal Catalonia, the cloud spread across the road and into the nearby campsite within seconds. At first, some holidaymakers thought little of it. Witnesses later described a white mist drifting over the beach and tents. But before anyone could properly react, the vapor found an ignition source, perhaps the sparks from the truck scraping the asphalt, perhaps a lit stove or cigarette within the campground. What followed was catastrophic. The gas cloud ignited in a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion, or BLEVE. The tanker itself burst apart, and a fireball erupted outward. The blast radius encompassed the road, the nearby beach, and the densely packed camping area. Tents and caravans were engulfed instantly. Flames swept through hundreds of meters in every direction, reaching temperatures estimated at 2,000 degrees Celsius. Eyewitnesses described an overwhelming wall of fire, accompanied by a deafening roar. Many victims had no chance to flee. Those closest to the truck were vaporized instantly. Others were thrown into the air by the shockwave or trapped inside burning vehicles and caravans. The heat was so intense that cars melted and the glass in windows fused. Survivors recalled the sudden silence after the explosion, broken only by screams. Those who managed to escape the immediate blast stumbled toward the sea, desperate to cool their burns. The beach quickly became a grim scene of injured men, women, and children, many with horrific injuries. Some survivors ran into the water and stayed submerged, surfacing only to breathe in an attempt to soothe their scorched skin. Others tried to help family members and friends, only to realize the severity of their wounds. For many, there was little anyone could do. The sheer violence of the explosion also caused devastation on the road. Passing cars and buses were incinerated, with drivers and passengers killed almost instantly. The tanker's cab was destroyed, killing the driver outright. Within minutes, the once bustling holiday resort had been transformed into an inferno. Black smoke billowed skyward, visible for kilometers. Emergency services were alerted, but the scale of the catastrophe was unlike anything they had encountered before. By the time firefighters and ambulances arrived, much of the campground was already reduced to ashes. Rows of caravans had been flattened or incinerated, and bodies lay among the debris. Survivors were rushed to nearby hospitals, though many would not survive the journey. The immediate destruction was catastrophic. Over 150 people died instantly, many burned beyond recognition. Others were severely injured and later succumbed to their wounds in hospitals. By the end, the official death toll stood at 217, with hundreds more suffering horrific burns. The victims included not only Spanish citizens, but also tourists from countries such as Germany, France, and the Netherlands. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Local hospitals were flooded with casualties, and burn units across Spain had to receive survivors. Many victims had no identification, making recovery and notification efforts very difficult. Investigations later confirmed that the truck had been dangerously overloaded and that transporting such hazardous cargo along busy public roads had been a recipe for disaster. The Los Alfaques disaster remains one of the deadliest road accidents in history. It led to widespread changes in the way dangerous goods were transported in Spain and across Europe, with stricter rules on tanker construction, load limits, and approved transport routes. Today, the site of the tragedy is marked by a memorial to the victims. Though decades have passed, the memory of that summer day in 1978 still lingers, a reminder of how one overloaded truck turned a holiday paradise into a scene of unimaginable horror.